but but it's been great, and like I said, next year will be fantastic. The question is why strength? Well, I've explained a little bit about it, but let me say a few more things. The strengths movement, probably some of you have heard about it. This is actually outside of medicine. This is actually strengths movement is more like is a movement that I just began in probably 10, 15 years ago at the turn of the century, when at the workplace especially, people began to see researchers. One of them, of course, is Martin Seligman. He's a psychologist, one of the leading psychologists in this country. He is the founder of the field of positive psychology. And one of the reasons he founded this is because, well, a lot of psychology has to do with disease, the mind not working right. So they're focused on fixing the problems in the mind. And his philosophy was, well, why don't we just focus on strengthening, making the mind more positive, on strengthening what is left. There's always something that's left that works okay, so why don't we focus on that? And he's focused on building and strengthening that aspect. Building strength. Now, where did I hear that from?
Great name.
Great name. Another person who also, he really focuses in the workplace. His name is Marcus Buckingham. Here he is right now. Baby face, but he was a researcher, a senior researcher with the Gallup organization, and they, like you know, do lots of polls and studies for the public and also for organizations. And one of the things he really discovered was that organizations were focused on repairing or fixing weaknesses, and his thought was, well, why don't we just focus on the strengths? Why don't we focus on the strengths of the employees? Help strengthen their key gifts and their key talents as opposed to fixing their weakness, which is the prevalent attitude in most organizations. And that book, Now Go Put Your Strengths to Work, is a really, really good book on that. So this is outside of medicine and outside of health where they begin to see that. And here's another really good example. The most successful book in NFL history is written by Tony Dungy, who was, of course, the first black coach to win a Super Bowl. By the way, the second black coach to win the Super Bowl was coached and mentored by him. The Indianapolis, the Colts have, I think it's a 9-0 unbeaten record this season. Well, the head coach there who took over from Tony Dungy was worked under Tony Dungy. And he is a man of extremely strong moral principles, and in fact, what he did with all his coaching staff was he organized Bible studies. He helped to focus on their family values. I mean, he focused on the players' family values and all those other things. So he looked at people not just from a playing or technical perspective, but from the value perspective, because his view is, well, you're just going to be a player for how many years? 10 years max. After that, what happens with your life? And too many players they get bankrupt, they get ill, many of them commit suicide because they've got nothing else to live for. And he didn't want that to happen, and he focused on that. By the way, he is the only coach in history to have beaten all the teams in the NFL. All the teams in the NFL. That's right. So he's a man, quiet strength. By the way, when most NFL coaches scream and holler at their players, he doesn't. He never shouts. He never screams. When he gets mad, he speaks even softer. And yet, people said that would not work. But it is working. It worked for him, and he has a Super Bowl to prove it. So back to Marcus Buckingham, and he talked about, again, it was about the employees thing. And so let's we've talked about outside of the medical field. In the medical field now, yes, we're moving towards prevention, but prevention, even I have a problem with that, because when you think about prevention, you prevent what you know is coming. If it's something that you don't know is coming, well, how are you going to prevent against it? And a good example is the swine flu. Okay, we've got vaccinations for the swine flu, and everybody's getting their vaccinations. Everybody's getting inoculated. Nothing against that. I have nothing against it at all. I think it's good for people to do what they feel they need to do to protect themselves. But here's the problem. The swine flu is just one strain of flu. There are other flu strains out there. Besides that, this one swine flu can easily mutate. And so the vaccine that has been prepared for this special kind of swine flu may no longer be be effective against it because it mutates. So, and of course, Gordon Pedersen did a really good presentation on Tuesday as well. So, yes, it is important to do what you can do to protect yourself, but I say it's even more important to do what you can do to strengthen your body, strengthen your immune system specifically. And we talked about that in several of our webinars, especially the one called The Battle Within, which is understanding your immune system. So our philosophy is about strength. Another example I want to bring forth is about heart attacks. Well, we know, well, the two main things. Oh, you need to stop being weight, you need to lose weight, and you need to exercise and eat less. Well, here's what they found out. More than 50% of people who suffer heart attacks don't even have the usual risk factors. Strange. Huh? Well, what they are finding out is that, well, the top risk factors for heart attacks are, number one, job dissatisfaction, which is one reason most heart attacks happen Monday morning at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Most heart attacks happen that way, happen at that time. Why is that? Because most people hate their jobs, pretty much. The number two, of course, is low self-happiness rating. I mean, if you're not happy mentally, psychologically, emotionally, you're down, well, that obviously brings pressure upon your immune system, your endocrine system. Your body just doesn't work well if you're not happy. And so those are the two main things that they have found out are the top risk factors for heart attacks. Does it mean that weight, hypertension are not problems? Of course they are. But they found out that these are even much more of a problem. So I kind of like put this picture together, and I've been using this now for years. And the idea is, if you look at the two prevailing philosophies, one is about the natural approach, which is on the left side, and the other philosophy is about the medical approach. In other words, when I have a problem, when I have a disease, I go see the doctor, and the doctor takes care of the disease. Of course, the doctor hardly ever, and that's because we're not trained that way, focuses on strengthening or building or putting the good stuff in the body. The doctor mainly focuses on this part, and let me demonstrate that. I have this picture here, and you see these two prevailing philosophies. Many times there's a lot of distrust between the chiropractors and the medical doctors, between the medical doctors and the osteopaths, between the chiropractors and the nutritionists. I mean, it's well, not that much, but you see everyone is like sticking to his or her own turf. even among the medical professionals, medical people think the surgeons are overly zealous, overly aggressive. The surgeons think the medical people are just too slow. They don't act quickly enough. And so everybody feels like his field is the best. But our philosophy has always been, well, why don't we just pick the best of each? Why don't we pick the parts that work and put them together into this, like we called it, the unifying theory of health. And so let's go back to these two pictures. And so you see the natural approach and the medical approach. Okay, I'm going to show you the first slide. I hope it works. So you see medication. The person has a disease, and so he goes to the doctor, and then they use medication, they use radiation, sometimes for cancer, and they treat the disease. And you see the mountain has been dismantled to somewhat. But what are those other colored mountains in the background? What are those other mountains there?
Side effects.
Exactly, side effects. And what do doctors do with side effects?
More drugs.
Exactly, more drugs to deal with the other side effects. And so you see many people end up taking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 drugs. I remember I went to speak at a retirement home recently, and the lady, she was so impressed with my presentation, but she comes up and she says, I have not slept well more than 2 hours a night for years. As a matter of fact, she said all her life she had never slept more than 2 hours a night. And her doctors just keep piling drugs on her, and she just doesn't know what to do. And then she asked me if I had to practice. Well, no, I don't. So I guess you wanted me to give her instructions about what to do. Of course not. I'm not going to tell you to disobey your doctor, but I can suggest that you begin to coach you in what you need to do to, well, build strength. So let's go to the other slide. The other thing that we fail to see is that even as the treatment is taking place and side effects are happening, you can see that the drugs are also affecting the physical body. A typical example, again, is with heart attack or heart disease. Cholesterol drugs, some very powerful cholesterol drugs, they reduce the cholesterol, but at the same time, they remove a vital nutrient in the body called coenzyme 10, CoQ10 for short. That is extremely important for muscle strength, and of course the heart is a muscle. And what you have is that while the cholesterol is being lowered, well, the heart is being weakened because of the effect of the drugs. And so what you're doing, and that's just one example, but again, because drugs are toxins